My name is Tefere Gebre. I'm the Executive Vice President of the National AFL CIO, representing 12.5 million workers from around the country. Well, May Day is Workers' Day all around the world. Except the United States, today is a day off for workers. Workers on May Day go on the streets and they celebrate the value of their labor, and they demand their rights and they demand their respect at the workplace. May Day started in 1889 here in the United States after the Chicago Haymarket strike. It's amazing to me that the rest of the world memorializes the workers that were killed on the Haymarket strike, who were demanding bread and roses, who gave out the 8-hour workday because of that fight, gave out the 40-hour work week. But here in the United States, we don't have it as a holiday. So it is a very significant day for me. It's a very significant day for workers around the world.
Okay, so today it seems like every year there's a sort of focus. What's this year's focus? What are you calling for as you are?
We are calling for several things, but chief amongst them is for once and for all, we want to level the playing field for workers at the workplace. And the House has the legislation called the PRO Act, which would allow more workers to, if they choose to join a union without the interference of the employers. And it's that bill is sitting in the Senate. So today we're demanding that the Senate pick up the PRO Act and pass the PRO Act and give workers a shot in the arm to have the freedom at work that they deserve.
And this has been timely because there have been some companies that have been denying that ability to their workers.
Well, for decades, companies have had an impunity to do whatever they want. They, in the middle of an organizing campaign, they will have small group meetings with workers. They scare them, they frighten them. It's against the law right now. But even if they are found guilty, the penalties are practically a slap in the hand. Mostly saying that they have to post a sign at the lunchroom saying they violated the rules. Every company is willing to take that risk to deny workers their voice at the workplace. If we pass the PRO Act will tighten up the penalties. It will make it harder for employers to actually do that. For employers to knowingly violate the law and break the law and stop workers from actually joining a union.
And tell me about your group. Who do you represent?
Well, we represent workers from trash sorters to doctors to nurses to construction workers. We're a federation of 55 unions, national and international unions in the United States, and like I said, which in total represent 12.5 million workers from around the country. So the AFL CIO is everywhere, anywhere there is a workplace, from public employees to private employees and everything in between. We represent those workers.
And this day, this action is happening around the country and probably around the world, right? Is there anywhere else in the Bay Area that's doing this today?
Well, the Bay Area Labor Councils came together to do this, 5 of them. The South Bay Labor Council, Alameda Labor Council, Contra Costa Labor Council, and San Mateo Labor Council in San Francisco came together to do this together. But today we have events that we know of, at least in 700 places around the country, with one same unified message that we demand our politicians to give us our God-given rights to exercise our democracy at the workplace by passing the PRO Act. So this is a unified voice day, and all week we'll be demanding the same thing.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I think this is beautiful. I think the PRO Act is not only about workplace rights. The PRO Act is one of the best tools to advancing civil rights. It's one of the best tools to advance voting rights. So it's a combination of all of those things. So it is a must. We must get this done. When we have a worker-friendly majority in the United States Senate and the United States House, and the president who, as part of his speech, demanded the Senate pass the PRO Act and send it to him and he will sign it. So this is a golden opportunity that we have to do it. But your listeners should also understand, even if we have a democracy in this country, the United States Senate does not function in a democracy. They still have a Jim Crow era rule called the filibuster that stops everything. That stops everything that's progressive from passing. We're demanding the Senate does everything it can by any means necessary to pass the PRO Act, to pass Senate Bill 1, which is the For the People Act, which will renew our democracy, to pass the John Lewis Act, and to pass the George Floyd Police Reform Act. We may not have 60 votes for those, but democracy is 50 plus 1. If we have 51 votes, all those bills should become a reality, and that's what we're demanding.
And you are talking about those other issues, those issues of police reform today as well, even though that's not really like traditionally a worker, it's not in the worker lane. But why is that important that you're doing that?
They are. We don't exist in a vacuum. We are part of the fabric of our democracy. And our democracy is hanging in a thin wire. And we need to strengthen it. Because our movement, even the workers' movement, cannot survive in a weak democracy. We want to strengthen our democracy. The people who get shot and killed by the police are part of our membership. They are part of our community. They are our neighbors. And we care about that deeply, about police reform and about civil rights. Civil rights, immigrant rights, those are at the tip of the sphere for our movement. We just don't exist in a vacuum. We're part of the community and part of the society, and we care about those things. Well, the labor movement unequivocally has to call out white supremacy, unequivocally has to call out police brutality and racism from anywhere that it exists. It is the biggest cancer in our society, and we have to find a way. We have to find a way to lessen it. We may not get rid of it. We have to find a way to make progress in getting rid of racism in this country.
Xenophobia, the racist attacks on immigrants, it's escalated massively. What should the labor movement do about it?
We have created a task force on racial justice, a national task force on racial justice, and we want to approach it systematically in what way we can actually have a dialogue that racism is a tool, xenophobia is a tool, that corporations and the powers to be used to divide us. We have to unite at the workplace. We have to see each other as workers. And when we come together and we realize that when we really believe in the notion of an injury to one is an injury to all, an injury to any Asian American unduly getting killed is an injury to every worker. And we have to understand that, and that has to be our mantra, and that has to be our fight.
And some unions and labor councils, the Vermont Labor Council, called for a general strike if Trump attempted a coup. What do you think about that and the whole issue of the threat of a fascist dictatorship in the United States?
Like I said earlier, we're willing to do whatever it takes to protect our democracy.
And privatization seems like massive, and how has COVID affected the labor movement? Thousands of workers have lost their lives. They weren't protected. Why don't you talk about the effect of the pandemic on working people, the immigrants and the frontline workers?
Well, the pandemic has exposed the inadequacies of our society, the haves and the have-nots. The have-nots have been exposed and killed at a higher number. And those happen to be people of color, communities of color who have paid the price for it. That's why when we rebuild better, we can't rebuild by the old rules. We have to create new rules that are inclusive rules that see people as human beings, not as black, as Latino, as Asian, or anything else, but as human beings and as workers for all of us. Good afternoon, Bay Area. Good afternoon, California. So I flew all night to be with you here today, getting out of a crazy place called Washington, D.C., and you made me proud. I was so proud to march with you on this May Day, San Francisco. So before I go any further, I want to thank the organizers of this event today. 5 labor councils coming together. Kim, Josh, Liz, Julie, and Jane, your leadership really inspires me. Please give them a hand. Happy Labor Day, brothers and sisters. Happy May Day. You know what?
And I'm looking for Steve Salone.
I'm not going to talk too much. You have been on your feet too long. But brothers and sisters, we have work to do. We have work to do. After 4 years of racism, after 4 years of xenophobia, after 4 years of sexism, after 4 years of Donald Trump, with all your efforts, we have now a chance to advance our issues forward. But that doesn't happen in the vacuum. We have to work for it. We have had people elected who have disappointed us before. We cannot allow that to happen again. And on this May Day, I'm here to ask you to pledge with me. One way or another, we must pass the PRO Act. We must pass the PRO Act. So for those of you who might say why, like the media who are asking me what is the PRO Act, why? For decades, our labor laws have been misguided. Our labor laws have been actually a tool for corporations to mistreat workers. This is about time we level the playing field. We say enough is enough. We say enough with the intimidation. Enough with the harassment. Enough with the firing. Enough with the small group meetings of brainwashing. Enough. And we have a legislation that says enough, and it is a PRO Act. With Nancy Pelosi's leadership from your city, the House passed it. It's about time for the Senate to do the same thing. And the Senate must do it by any means necessary. By any means necessary. The Senate cannot use a Jim Crow era white supremacist rule called the filibuster to block progress. It is time to get rid of the filibuster, brothers and sisters. Because the only thing they filibuster is workers' rights. The only thing they filibuster is migrant rights. The only thing they filibuster is voting rights. The filibuster must go, and we should pass progressive laws. When you're at it, the Senate also should pass Senate Bill 1. That's the For People Act. Sisters and brothers, the labor movement doesn't exist in a vacuum. We are part of our democracy. And our democracy is standing by the threats. I know you probably have heard from Georgia to Michigan to Florida, they are shredding in state legislatures voting rights laws. Senate Bill 1 would say stop, would say enough, would allow anybody who wants to vote to go and vote, would allow our democracy to flourish, and it's time to pass that bill. Once they're at it, they should pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. It's about time we hold police officers accountable. It's about time. It's about time that police officers see black people and white people as people, not as blacks and whites. It's about time they stop putting guns in my mouth because I had a retired thug in my car. Brothers and sisters, our work is cut out for us. But there's nothing we can't do when we come together in solidarity. And in solidarity, we'll get it done. Happy Labor Day, and have a great weekend. Bye.